Danganronpa and Your Turn to Die have overlapping themes, concepts, and even fan bases. For example, the horror and heartbreak aspect, though I would say Your Turn to Die is better at that aspect. Not because the characters are better or the plot is, it's more how the games handle death. You are unprepared with Your Turn to Die and do not know all the rules, unlike Danganronpa. In Danganronpa, we know at certain points people are going to die, and we can easily prepare ourselves. Yes, the deaths still definitely hurt, but at least we know when they're coming. That's not the subject of this video though. What I've noticed is games in general have overlapping character archetypes. I'm sure that's common information though. Sayaka and Joe follow the support and safety net for the player, as well as the main character. But the interesting thing regarding their characters is they both subvert expectations. Of course they have more things alike, but that's for further on in the video, buckos. Both games treat the two characters the same, and try to force the player to form an attachment, because well, we know both of them are gonna take a massive L later on. The game wants to break your heart, so if you're ever playing a game and a certain character is getting a lot of screen time, be very scared. That applies to some animes as well, such as Attack on Titan. With Sayaka, she is right by Makoto's side, and constantly talks about being there for each other, thanking him and asking for his support and protection. She showers Makoto with compliments, enforcing the fact she is kind. There's also a grounding moment with her rather quickly. When Makoto places her on a pedestal, she corrects him, stating that she was the one in fact wanting to speak to him. They are just two teenagers, her status doesn't matter in her eyes when it comes to relationships. And that's a good quality that would draw the player in. Regarding Joe, we are immediately hit with him being Sara's close friend. Due to Your Turn to Die being a more quick-paced game, the bonding process starts much sooner. As what happens with Sayaka happens here. Joe is giving good quality character traits, such as being protective and caring when Sara talks about her struggles with her stalker. To help force your attachment to these characters, we also get more background on them than the others. We also see them more as friends than strangers, due to them having a past relationship with the main characters. Sayaka used to go to school with Makoto, and saw him help a crane, so she was already fond of him. Joe is Sara's best friend, and even talks about inside jokes among the two. In both cases, friendship also has romantic implications. And they are not very well hidden either. Sayaka basically admits in her free time events she has a crush on Makoto. Joe also teases Sara about them being a couple, and his last words are even, "I love you." Of course, you can interpret that "I love you" as something different. I personally saw it as romantic, especially considering on Joe's date he could only talk about Sara. An interesting note of their character as well is they both like to tease the main character. Sayaka does it in her free time events, and Joe does it whenever he wants to lighten the mood. Due to their previous relationships and attitudes, we come to think along the main character. We can trust them. But, as we all know, that isn't the case. Both of these characters betray the main character, and in return, us the player. Or the viewer, depending if you're watching Let's Plays or not. But for Your Turn to Die, I recommend playing it for yourself. It is free, and it makes the whole experience a completely different thing. While I cannot blame either character for betraying us like this because, well, they're in a death game. Especially Joe, who had the role forced onto him with the sacrifice card. Which still makes me hold a grudge against Salad Boy. I was not prepared to lose Joe. Either way, they both try to take down the others with them. Though it should be noted, Sayaka was not aware of the trial rule, and thought one death was enough to get them all out. So while she betrayed Makoto and planned the murder on him, she thought in the end she could make it up to him. Joe did know everyone else would die aside from someone of his choice. And he fully committed into tricking everyone, and having them vote for him. Heck, even I was convinced. And I admit, after it was revealed, I did try to make it so Joe would still win. I loved him too much, and then they took Kai. I was not ready for all this heartbreak. We are supposed to be able to trust these characters. I put trust into everything Joe said because that's our man. That's our buddy. And that's the whole point. When you have Joe and Sayaka, you have at least some comfort. And when that's ripped out from under you, it does a few things. 1, you can trust no one, and now you're just as paranoid as the characters. 2, you know anyone can die. There is no plot armor. Well, unless you're Togami because, you know, he's awesome. It makes the games just that much more uneasy. But they also force these characters into that corner so they are still redeemable. After all, they're just teenagers in a death game. We can't hold too much against them in the end. None of them are bad people, they're just paranoid in a bad situation. Finally, how they react when they find out they're going to die. Joe is oddly reassuring, and is content with his own death. He knows that in the end, him dying was better than others dying. And the only thing he regrets is not being able to spend more time with his best friend. In Sayaka's last moments, she thought of the situation she put Makoto in, and spent her last breath writing Leon's name on the wall to help Makoto. In their eyes, it was her way of making amends. Neither of them died angrily, instead they died thinking of the protagonist. While they are still vastly different characters, it's fun to point out the similarities in them. Two supports who met an untimely death, and will forever haunt the protagonist's memories. Also, happy Pride Month, everyone! I love you all, and you have to remember, no matter what your orientation is, you deserve love. Have a happy month, everyone, And as someone great once said, it's time the pride overthrow the government. Of course that's a joke. Maybe.